Hello, welcome to Tool Tuesday. This week on Tool Tuesday, we're going to go over some of the tools that I use in my trade, and probably more specifically, I'll go over my go-to tool that I use pretty much daily. Actually, it's two of them. And I also collect them. So let me turn the camera and get all these things in view, and we'll start the discussion. Here we go. Okay, so what I didn't mention in the earlier clip was the hand tool that I use on the daily in my trade. There's quite a few hand tools I use. Probably first and foremost would be a tape measure. I run heavy equipment, so those things aside, a shovel, which I'm not real fond of, but I use them quite more often than I'd like. But for a majority of the day that I use throughout the day, I use measuring devices for shooting, we say shooting grade or checking elevation. So let me go over some. Let me start from the top here. This is right out of my toolbox in the truck, and it is a Rotary laser transit. And you already know how this works. Just fast forward right on through. So here's the business end. Let me make sure that's in camera. Oh yeah. It's self-leveling, so it's got a threaded bung in the bottom. You set it on top of your tripod, turn it on. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's doing its check, and it's leveling the laser head, making sure there's no flashing lights. It'll tell you, and there we go. And you can actually see a little bit. You can see the beam that it's casting. That's not its general intended purpose. During the daytime outside, when the ambient light is so much brighter, you can't see that. You can see it in the evening and in the morning, depending on how late you're working. But nonetheless, and the reason I mention that is because I have another tool that is intended to be able to see the beam for leveling purposes, but it also, I'll show you another use, how it doubles. So this is the sensor part, and you would have, I didn't bring the rod out because it's too big, and it clips onto it, and in here it receives the signal from the laser beam, and it has volume adjustment, and you can adjust the sensitivity of it. And what that would do is slow beep your low, fast beep your high, steady beep your on grade. So a lot of times what we'll do when we get our paperwork to dig a basement, we'll set our transit up. The engineer will give us a hub. From that hub, we get a cut to a specific elevation. We'll shoot the hub. We'll add our cut to our reading at the hub, and then we set our transit on there, and we basically, long story short, we keep digging until we're on the specified grade. So that's this guy, and we use it for grading yards and swales and things. Primarily, I use that for digging basements. And then our other instrument here is this guy. And like I mentioned before about the beam, this guy here, it's made by DeWalt. Its specific purpose is to cast a visible beam so you can hang trim, hang suspended ceiling or acoustic ceiling, and things like that. However, I don't know if the batteries are any good. This one is It's mine, and I keep it here at the house. I don't use it very often. Let's see if we can get him working. Again, if you already know how to use these, just skip on by. So, get him leveled. This one doesn't level automatically. Have to level it manually. I can get this guy. Can't see my other bubble. Okay, so the one beam is on, it's hitting the wall. Check something here. All right, so you can stop it so it shoots just one beam, and you can get it going, and you can change the speed on it. So I wouldn't trust the range for this for doing anything outside so far as elevation is concerned, but the sensor for this big transit here will pick up the signal from your DeWalt laser here. Anywho, so that's another measuring instrument. I collect these, specifically the smaller ones that we'll get to in a minute. Let me get this guy put up and out of the way, and we'll move on. So next would be this guy. This is a very basic one. This little fella here has a threaded bung. The DeWalt one also has a threaded bung, and you can set it for vertical and horizontal. That's what the other bubble was that I was playing with on there. But at any rate, this one here is more of a manual one, and make sure there's no lock on here. So this one would thread onto your top of your tripod, and it has three thumb screws for leveling, and you would turn your screws, get him, and it has a circular bubble with a little bullseye target, and you want the bubble in the center of your bullseye. So you would get him leveled up, and the way that works is when you have it level, everywhere you turn it, it's level. So this one, you physically look through the scope here. It's 32 times the magnification. And you would have somebody on the other end with the rod, and you would be looking directly at your number. The way we would use this, say to dig a basement, we would set our rod on the hub that the engineer gave us, look through, see the number we're reading, you write that down, add the number of that the engineer gave you for your cut from that hub, and then when you dig your basement, you just have your number in your head where you need to be reading on that rod, and you look through your scope, and when you see the number that you're looking for, it has a I can't remember what they call that in the end there, and I should know from target shooting with the scopes and everything, but the crosshairs basically, you want that on your elevation. Pretty much a two-man job. This one doesn't have a pitch adjustment. This one strictly is just level, straightforward, and that's what you have. Some of the other ones you can adjust the pitch, and there's a lot of different things you can do with that. You can do slope with that and things of that nature, because it has basically a protractor on there to tell you your angle of slope. So that's this fella here. I have an older one in the house that I'll post a picture of with the video. This is my grandfather's. It's a big brass heavy ordeal. I didn't want to bring it out here. It's in my office. And that brings us to the last part. I don't have any surveying equipment, because we don't do, you can use that for surveying. It has a degrees around the perimeter of it, and with the slope and everything, there's so many different things you can do with them so far as surveying and whatnot. Has a plumb bob included. You can get over a benchmark and you can measure your degrees and find your angle for a property line and pull a measurement, things like that. You can do surveying with it. Surveyors nowadays use a real big apparatus. They're pretty expensive. Five figures for those things, what they cost. They work off of GPS and things like that. They're really expensive. I'm sure 5 figures and up, new that is. So taking it back, really old school, really simple. These things here, I collect these mostly. I can usually buy them pretty cheap. They don't take up a lot of room, and they're just really fun. This one here, this isn't my service one. This is one exactly like it, but I carry one just like this on my hip when I'm working, and I use it in conjunction with a folding roll, which I also have a habit of collecting these too. So we'll go over a few of these. This one here is pretty cool. This one's not old or vintage or anything, but you have magnification power. This one here is 2 times the magnification. This one here goes up to 5 or 6 times the magnification, and you have your magnification adjustment on one end, and then the other end it gives you your focus. And these operate with a set of crosshairs inside. Some of them do. This one doesn't have crosshairs. It just has 3 lines across the center, and it has a little bubble on top, so you know when you're level, that bubble is in between dead center of all 3 of the lines in the lens. And so that one's 5 to 6 times the magnification. This one is 2 times the magnification. You can also get these in no magnification. These older vintage ones, they are all unmagnified. They're when you look through them, you're just looking through a piece of glass with a horizontal line and your level bubble on top. You always want to hold it with your bubble on the very top, and you need the ambient light to come through so you can see it, and so you don't want to put your finger over top of it. And you basically line your level up with the crosshair and you're level. The principle of these measuring devices is going from a fixed object to wherever you're going with your elevation height-wise. And say with these, you have your laser or your optic is fixed, and what you're looking at is whether you're looking for the number directly on the rod, or whether your target that gives an audible beep of some sort is on the rod and it's moving with the elevation. And so if you're at a fixed point, I'm trying to explain this the best way I can. I do this every day, and it's just like instinct and second nature for me, like breathing and walking. So, so your optic is at a fixed point, and you're out checking the slope of, say, your backyard. And as the slope goes further down, as it goes away from you, as that rod goes out, your number is going to change one way or the other as the elevation changes. And when you work with these, you can do that the same way. A lot of times what they recommend is using what they call a steady stick. So just like you would do with this, you would have someone walking around with the ruler, and your ruler is set up down a little ways. Let me grab a So with what they refer to as a steady stick, it's a 2x4 fence post, anything that you might have that you could lean on, and you would stand in one position and look through it, line your bubble up with the crosshair, and read your number on the rod. And as they go downhill and the rod gets shorter and shorter, you know, as the grade goes down, you're looking with your steady stick, still in your fixed location, paint a mark on the ground, throw your hat down, whatever, and you're reading the rod, and that number is changing as it's going down the hill. The way I use it in reverse, and you can do it by yourself. I keep the ruler on me and pretty much center of the instrument, and I go right on my elevation. And the way I work is I pick a fixed spot, and usually when I'm working around the house, I'll either pick, say, the top of the foundation wall, because that's for all intents and purposes level. I'll pick the bottom of a windowsill, something like that, because most of your windows are all the same size roughly, and they're the same height. So that gives me many different locations that I can check my elevation with. And basically what happens is I'm aiming towards the top of that wall. It's not moving. So as I'm walking around and I'm checking elevation, as the grade goes down, the rod goes down. As the grade goes up, the rod goes up. So I can look through here, focus on the bottom of my windowsill or the bottom of the top of the foundation, something like that, and I can shoot me a grade here. I can go out 20, 30 feet and check another spot. I focus again on the top of that foundation or that windowsill, and my grade might be higher, and just keep track of where your last dimension was. And I like it because you can shoot many different areas. You don't have to set up a tripod. A lot of times, so far as just making a yard drain, if you can get it within an inch or two, it works really well. It's just like shooting a rifle or anything like that. It's the instrument that you're using is only as good as you are steady. So if you got Parkinson's and you're real shaky, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but you're not going to get a good reading, and you're not going to be very close in what you're measuring. So that's how I use that. So now let's go over a little bit more fun, some of these different ones. Here's, I think I already opened that one. That was one of the first ones. These are all 1960s or earlier. One of these I got doubles of. When I got them, they're all eBay purchases. And I thought I only bought one. I ended up getting two in the mail and I was really surprised. I'd sent to another channel I follow, Scout Crafter, and sent him one. So there's another. These two here are pretty much the same. These are probably the newest. Again, these are all no magnification. Here's another one. I like this one because it was square. And we'll skip ahead here. Here's another one. This one is also square. It's a big, he's stuck in there. It's kind of a big hulky fella. This one here is probably my favorite one. Probably going to pronounce this wrong. It's, I think they call it an Abney level. And this one has a protractor built into the side of it. And you can measure height with it. And the way it works is you need to know the distance from an object that you want to measure the height of. So you stand, say, 60 feet from the back of something, and you look through it, and you loosen your protractor, and while you're looking through it, you turn your protractor until you turn your protractor until your level is reading level in the crosshairs. And then when you're done, you take your degree, and there's a mathematical equation, whatever your degree was of angle and your distance from your object will give you what your height was. So that's really cool. I really like that. And that's probably my most favorite one in my collection. And I think this is pretty much all of them. There may be a few others in the house that I have sitting on display that I forgot to bring out, but these are the majority of what I collect. They take up so much room with the cases and everything. I try to collect the small stuff just because they're easier to hang on to and display. And this real quick is a example of something that I use in my daily routine. And that's what we call the lines and grades, and that gives you your elevations and all these numbers. The acronym there, FFE is your finished floor elevation, your TOW is top of wall elevation, BFE is basement floor elevation, and all those numbers, they are indexed, referenced from height above sea level. Sea level being 0, and your number there would be your height above it. So the top of the wall for this foundation is 359.6 feet above sea level. And that's how we calculate the rest of our elevations to make everything flow. So here's what we call a contour line, is 358 feet above sea level, and that makes it 1.6 feet below the top of the foundation. So just wanted to share that. This one got really long. This is the Tool Tuesday that I intended on doing last week, but I wanted to go over, I diverted and went over my tools for the Fire Friday that I was going to do, which, if anybody pays attention, I missed this Fire Friday due to a bunch of overtime at work and just kind of being overextended and wore out. So if you stuck around with me through the 24 minutes of me jabbering, I really, really appreciate it. I'm really glad that I was able to share these with you. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I love these things and talking about them, and I'd love to help or share any information that you may need. So I appreciate you. Take care. We'll see you.